What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you come into the channel. Check out the content. And with that being said, I want to speak on s- recent revelations, like as far as the fans and what they're saying about Coach Stephanie White for the Indiana Fever. A lot of fans are making it clear that they don't, that they're losing confidence. They no longer have confidence in Stephanie White as a coach. They don't feel like Stephanie White is the coach or the one who could get them into the playoffs for this season. And Stephanie White may be on after this season. If they don't make the playoffs, Stephanie White may be on a hot seat right now. And some of the reason why I believe that Stephanie White is in trouble as a coach is just because some of the decisions that she made. Before a lot of players or people, fans were complaining about the fact that number one, she was taking the ball out of Caitlin Clark's hand and making Caitlin Clark or trying to get Caitlin Clark to play in a style that was not conducive for Caitlin Clark, right? And so now once Caitlin Clark gets hurt, she's not out. The team goes on a winning streak. I think they won like 8 out of 11 games while they were on their winning streak, and things seem to be turning around. But then Stephanie White makes some decisions that really started people questioning, and myself included, questioning like what was she doing when she bought, players from off of the street, point guard, and allowed the point guard to log heavy minutes when this player was not familiar with number one, their system. The player was not in basketball shape. She was, and she had not been there, and so she didn't have a chemistry with the players that was on the team. And so these kind of moves that, in my opinion, like something like that, if you're going to bring somebody to a team and you're having some success, and she felt like she needed to bring some team, some more point guards to the team, then don't throw them out there right away. Bring somebody to the team, let them learn from, just on the bench mainly. I would not have had, this young lady, I forgot her name, but I would not have had her out there, playing 13 minutes a game when you have Kelsey Mitchell, you had at the time you had Sophie Cunningham, you had Aaliyah Boston, you had Howard, you had Lexi Hall. These players have been there the entire time. So you could move Kelsey Mitchell over to point guard and allow Kelsey Mitchell to handle the ball, and she could do score, be a scorer at the same time. Because what happens is they already understand what it is that you're trying to get them to do as a coach. But when you bring somebody in who don't know what you're trying to do and as a coach, and after every game, what Stephanie was doing is she was trying to reinforce like what she wanted to do as a coach. So if you're trying to reinforce like your game plan and your strategy as a coach, then you should know bringing in somebody new, they're starting from ground zero. Whereas though the players that were already on the bench and the players that were already on the team, they know already. So you rely more heavily on those players than you do somebody that's off the street. You can't bring a point guard from off the street and think that she's going to have instant chemistry with the players that, with the players. It's just not going to work like that. So you want to promote from within. A lot of people thought that Lexi Hall should have been getting more time anyway, which I agree. Lexi Hall should have been getting more time. Like I said, she knows the program. She knows the players on the team. She's more familiar with what they're trying to do. And Lexi Hall can shoot, and she's a pretty a good defender. So you don't lose anything when you bring Lexi Hall. It's almost a no-brainer. And then like I said, when you see this young lady bring Stephanie White bring somebody onto the team, somebody who's not, basically she's trying to learn on the fly. And I noticed in the what game was that they when they played the Mystics, not the Mystics, I'm sorry, the team before the Mystics, when they played the Dallas Wings, they lost that game because the team was just seemed like they were out of rhythm to me. They lost that game, and then they go which was a very winnable game when they played the Wings, because the Wings, in my opinion, didn't really look all that sharp that game too. The Wings had an 18-point lead, gave that up, and nearly lost that game. Then you had the next game they played the Mystics. And again, that too was a winnable game. And I just think through coaching, I think she should have had Mitchell running the point. Now they're in a situation where Sophie Cunningham is hurt. She had a I'm not sure how severe her knee is injured, but her knee is injured, right? And she got injured against the Connecticut Suns, right? Um, I don't know, is it? Well, she got injured against Connecticut, and so now she's injured, and people really don't, because of the decisions that she's made in the past, they don't know if she'll be able to coach this team in a way with on top with all these injuries, coach them in a way where they can still stay, in the playoff hunt until they're able to get Caitlin Clark back in there. And a lot of people don't feel like she's able to do that because of the decisions that she's made. And I gotta say, people are rightfully so to question her. I was when they were on their winning streak, I was giving them credit. I was giving Stephanie White credit because for the first time I saw that, okay, so her plan is working, like her philosophy for the team is working. But she stuck with that philosophy. I thought after, she had a few injuries, I thought it was necessary for her to, I don't think it was not necessarily pivot, but to lean more on the players that she already had on her roster rather than to try to bring somebody else in there. When it worked pretty good with Ari McDonald, I thought that Ari McDonald would have been a very good backup to Caitlin Clark. Like if you want to, at any time you want to move Caitlin over to the two, or if you want to give Caitlin a rest, then you could have Ari McDonald lead the team and still be able to maintain. But I think that Ari McDonald for long stretches, when you get to the playoffs, I thought that Ari McDonald would have been a she would have been a liability in the playoffs because Ari McDonald is just a smaller basketball player. She's short, and in the playoffs, they probably would have just put somebody with some length and some reach on her, and just would have limit her to passing more so than they would have took the scoring out of her hands. So Ari McDonald in playoffs would have been limited, just like the young lady. What's her name? The young lady who played for the Minnesota Lynx, right? With the she always had a down her head. Sometimes it's I forgot her name. Sometimes her hair is pink, sometimes her hair is gold. But I think that's why the Lynx went out and got Dejanay Carrington, because she is somebody who is taller and can play better defense, and so I think that that size is going to help the Lynx. Whereas though I thought that Ari McDonald, by the time they got to the playoffs, it would have been hard for Ari McDonald to be able to make a strong enough impact. That's why I thought you would have needed to have Caitlin Clark in there, because she's a bigger and better guard than Ari McDonald, right? But now, with who knows how long Sophie Cunningham is going to be out, so and if Sophie Cunningham don't come back, She missed a few games. They only have 9. I think they have like 9 games left before the season is over, before you go into the playoffs. And let me see. I think they're 2 games above the Fever, 2 games above 500. So if they're 2 games above 500 with 9 games left, and then you have the Washington Mystics like breathing down their necks, it's going to be hard for them. And their schedule don't get any easier, right? So they're going into the teeth of their schedule. Whereas though the Mystics, their schedule is going to get a little bit easier, and that's just how things are working out. So yeah, a lot of people not having confidence in Stephanie White as far as being able to get the team to the playoffs. And that's just because of the decisions that she made. She was doing good for a little while. She had a stretch where she was doing good. Some people said it was because of the competition was a little bit weaker. But again, you had the 2 teams this week that you could have beat. I think that and yesterday, who they played? They played Connecticut. And that game, they had to go into overtime just to beat Connecticut. So I don't know, man. It's gonna be tough for these people, for these young ladies, this coach Stephanie White, to get them into the playoffs. It's gonna be really, really tough. Um, I don't know. It's gonna be tough. Well, that's my take on it. Y'all, to make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to leave a comment. And with that being said, I'll check you all out in the next video. Peace.